You're watching Camnet TV, not just another channel. Welcome to our news. The headlines. Government shuns former Education Deputy Minister CRISPIN MUSOSHA'S funeral. Temporal embankments on the collapsed LUNDAZI bridge washed away due to heavy rains. Government disburses 8 million KWACHA social cash transfer funds in PETAUKE district. In international news, South Africa shuts its land borders due to spike in COVID-19. And in sports news, CHIPOLOPOLO to wrap up CHAN preparatory matches with 2 Libyan teams. For the detail, join me shortly after this break.
2021 is finally here. Zambia is at the crossroads heading towards general elections this August. In the world where fake news, biased reporting on national issues has become the order of the day, in a world where social media in most cases spills lies and exaggerated information, insightful coverage, Zambia needs one media. Living in a country where people are slowly promoting tribalism, hatred, bitterness and revenge, political temperature is heating up and people's hearts are perplexed. Zambia needs one media. Zambia being a Christian nation living under the lordship of Jesus Christ, the nation cannot afford a compromised gospel. Zambia needs a prophetic media house. For hope, peace and unity, Zambia needs Camnet television. For non-biased, factual reporting, balanced opinion, accurate news coverage, Zambia needs Camnet television. For national projects and development of our beloved country Zambia, watch Camnet TV on channel 274 DSTV, channel 98 on GOTV and channel 106 on Topstar. Remember, Camnet TV is not just another channel.
Hello, have you heard about MUSICA? Do you know that you can advertise for as low as 150 kwacha for 30 seconds? Well, MUSICA is here. Advertise on MUSICA between 17 hours and 18 hours. Just tell us about the services that you offer and we'll gladly put you on the market. For more details, you can contact
+260 953 995099. +260 962 444 726 or +260 971 177 467.
MUSICA, allowing your business to grow.
With the details, my name is Liseli Kanyanga. Several houses in Lusaka's John Lane compound in Kanyama constituency have been submerged in water due to heavy rains, thus posing health and environmental hazards to the inhabitants. One of the residents, Frank Mubu, has expressed worry that if left unchecked, the situation may lead to an outbreak of waterborne diseases such as cholera, as both drinking water and stagnant rainwater has mixed with fecal matter. Mr. Mubu is calling on government through the Disaster Management and Mitigation Unit, DMMU, to come to their aid by pumping out the water. More in this report.
A recent series of rains in Lusaka has led to flash floods, destroying property and affecting livelihoods. Most areas are receiving above average rainfall. Floods are made more likely by the more extreme weather patterns caused by long-term global climate change. The change in land cover, such as removal of vegetation and climate change, increase flood risk. Meanwhile, one of the Lusaka famous slums, John Lane compound, has not been spared from flash floods.
Next to this stagnant water is a shallow well, which is a source of water for many families around this compound. One can only imagine the health risks associated with this.
Accessing homes and toilets has become a nightmare for some families. The situation is worse for children. Poor sanitation and water contamination remains a source of concern. John Lane is known to be a locky area, thus making it difficult to construct a good drainage system. I spoke to one of the affected residents, Frank Mubu.
Manzi ya kumwa, abantu sibakumwa manzi hapa kuma teach bakumwa manzi ama wells, kulibe manzi kuma tawo tasware chipo. then cholera, disease, vantu kuenda kuma toilet. You can see the toilet. My toilet also. Lero vana vangono kuenda kuma toilet vakagora mumanzi akufa.
Mr. Mubu is calling on the Disaster Management and Mitigation Unit to come to their aid.
The problem I've found here is a problem yakuti sibadiemeMU sibatandizako. No any help in this constituency, and it could be help. Councillors are nowhere to be seen, so we need a help. Vana swanga ende mumanzi kuma toilet. No, we need the help. The government, but tanze kwa pumping of manzi.
Tanza kwa chena matiyo chitakavo zuza chanya. Leni ngati health wise ni Mungu chape. Ni Mungu chape kuti survive ko senera kukara na measures but imanzi baka ina sivili ni.
The 2020-2021 rainy season has presented a number of challenges in various compounds of Lusaka. John Lane is no exception. But what can be done in order to put this issue to rest? Patrick Soko, Camnet News in Lusaka.
Thank you, Mr. Soko, for that report. And in LUNDAZI district of Eastern Province, heavy rains have washed away the embankments of the collapsed LUNDAZI bridge. The embankments erected on either sides of the bridge were meant to block water, but heavy rains have washed them away. The LUNDAZI bridge was washed away on the 14th of February 2020, but until now, government is yet to work on it. According to the residents, the temporal deviation road is giving up as it was not designed to be used for a long time. More in this report.
It has now become a common scenario in the Zambian setup to wait for a calamity to strike, then act later as opposed to preventing it. On the 5th of December 2020 in Lusaka, 3 people died on the spot along the Independence Avenue after their car flipped and split into 2 parts after hitting a terrible pothole along the Independence Avenue, which was there for years but was never attended to by those responsible. As usual, in reactive mode as opposed to being preventive-minded, the state, through the Road Development Agency RDA, swiftly moved in to repair the pothole after it claimed lives. It is important to note that the pothole in question was just a few meters away from Zambia's State House, a road used on a daily basis by the president, but it couldn't be maintained until lives of Zambians perished as a result of it. In Eastern Province, LUNDAZI district to be specific, the bridge was washed away due to heavy rains on the 14th of February 2020, but the bridge has remained unattended to, and yet this is an important road connecting LUNDAZI and Chama to the rest of the country. This was indeed a disaster which needed government's attention there and then, but the only immediate action was to put up embankments on either sides of the bridge to pave way for crossing and another temporary road while this bridge remains in its calamity state.
This road is our economic road. There is literally nobody else who can avoid this bridge here. Please, for once, try to be considerate. We are equally human beings. The resources that you are wasting, that you are misapplying, these resources are equally resources of LUNDAZI people.
The sad reality is that the embankments put up on the bridge on either sides have also been washed away by heavy rains the district is currently experiencing, putting the lives of people in more danger.
The bridge has been washed away. Those 2 improvisation they did, those things that they put across the river on both sides have been washed away. I don't know if they were used for blocking the water or we don't know. But otherwise, they have been washed away, both of them, posing more danger to the people that crosses the same area. So again, we just want to appeal again the government to do the needful.
Being a priority road, one expected that resources could have been mobilized towards the project so as to attend to it there and then than waiting for years, as the case now.
soka pa bridge para na merutira pa netike ngevichi tavantu chikuruka kuti jani chivana afenge nanjara kata nanturikira business
because vamene vevichitika ivi ni time ya campaign vazampezeka sokonezeka mukati boma sisevenza siyanganapo vantu vachinjana nzeru msango wa mene uyu so isiza manse mbatiganizirako mwandi because olobva kudya padula mtauni mchikozi aliyense adandaula panjira amene so stiziyo chazanganapo vacontractor wanaleta uyu ayambako kumanga chinagumukaso futi so stiziyo akangamange na mvula iyi kapani next year so aboma sembe yanganapo mwandi boma itiganizire tafutika tantu akulundazi tipemba tilira.
The Road Development Agency, RDA, through its Corporate Affairs Manager Masuzi Ndlovu, attributed the collapse of the bridge to multiple AMCO ring culverts that were washed away as a result of excessive water pressure flowing from the upstream side of the structure due to heavy rains which were being experienced by the district at the time. Kalan Muchima reporting for Camnet News.
Former local government and education deputy minister in the MMD government, CRISPIN MUSOSHA, who died on Saturday, has been put to rest at Lusaka's Leopards Hill Memorial Park. Mr. MUSOSHA died of suspected COVID-19. No single government official was present at his last send-off. At church, no body viewing was allowed, hence the last physical picture of the late Mr. MUSOSHA is what those who knew him have remained with. More in this report.
Family and friends gathered at the Healing Word Ministries International to bid farewell to the late Education Deputy Minister CRISPIN MUSOSHA, who died on Saturday from suspected COVID-19. Mr. MUSOSHA died aged 68, leaving behind a wife and children.
CRISPIN MUSOSHA had a lot of respect for God and his work. There are times he did certain things that were painful even to himself, but for his God. There are times he contributed immensely to the work of God, even when he didn't have. He has built 3 churches at a critical hour, at a critical time, when his resources were very meager, but he went ahead and did that. I asked him one day, why are you doing this? He told me, but Pastor, you can't understand it. One day you will. Now, because of that hour, God is making a passionate appeal to your life and to my life. Don't just live. Don't just become a church member. Don't just commit your life to church. Commit your life into the hands of God himself.
Healing Word International Overseer Pastor Moses Chiluba represented the MUSOSHA family.
I must say that when I was asked to give a tribute on behalf of the family by Mr. Bwalian, I consider it as an honor. But my prayer to God is that as this man dies, abalup mwila sontana iminwe ukuya kunganga and all this, it's not necessary. Muntu nga nafwa nangu muye kunganga ya miebe ati uipeye nyuyu ale miebe fyo last weekend ali lufyo mwana teshiwe na bepeye mwana wako but aisa mkulando ba ipeyo lupwa wen. So it's not necessary. All I can ask to the MUSOSHA family and the children, be one.
The children, led by Beatrice MUSOSHA, described their father as a loving person who worked towards supporting the family.
A giant pine, magnificent, old, stood staunch against the sky, and all around shade beauty, grace and power. Within its fold, birds safely reared their young, the velvet ground beneath was gentle, and the shade gave cheer to the passers-by. We wonder if we ever thanked you for the sacrifices you made to let us have the very best, and for the simple things like laughter, smiles, and times we shared. If we have forgotten to show our gratitude enough for all the things you did, we are thanking you now. We will always remember you, Dad, because there will never be another one to replace you in our hearts, and the love we will always have for you.
Due to the nature of Mr. MUSOSHA'S death, there was no body viewing. The sad reality is that, despite Mr. MUSOSHA serving the nation in various portfolios, the state opted to shun his funeral. Masters of ceremonies, both at church and burial site itself, repeatedly asked if there was any representative from government so as to say one or two things on behalf of the state, but all the calls were met with coldness as no one was just there. While most politicians have gone with the send-off messages in their honor, Mr. MUSOSHA had none. For the sake of records, Mr. MUSOSHA once served as Mansa Central Member of Parliament. He also served the country as a military personnel in the Zambian National Service ZNS. The late also served the country as local government and education deputy minister in the MMD government. The late Mr. MUSOSHA has since been buried at Lusaka's Memorial Park. Kalan Muchima reporting.
The Lusaka Magistrate Court has discontinued a case in which late Republican Progressive Party RPP President James Lukuku was being accused of inciting violence and expressing hatred against the Chinese people. This was after Mr. Lukuku's lawyers presented records of his death as demanded by the court before dismissing the matter. The defense, however, informed the court that the death certificate contained the subject of investigations and that they are in the process of opening an inquest. Mr. Lukuku died on the 31st of October 2020. More in this report.
Finally, his case has now been dismissed. The late Republican Progressive Party leader James Lukuku had his case in which he was accused of expressing hatred against Chinese discontinued this morning after the state entered a nolle prosequi. In this case, the late Lukuku, who died on the 31st of October 2020, was charged with expressing hatred or contempt against Chinese nations due to their race. On the 2nd of December 2020, Lusaka Chief Resident Magistrate Lamek Mwale had ordered his lawyer to produce his death certificate as proof before court after the court was informed that the accused person was no more. However, when the case was called this morning before court, the defense counsel produced his burial permit and not his death certificate, stating that his death certificate contains the subject of investigations and they are in a process of opening an inquest over his death. Following the production of his burial permit and the state entering a nolle, his case was dismissed. Lukuku, who was also Opposition Alliance spokesperson, died at the University Teaching Hospital after complaining of having stomach pains. In this case, the late was alleged to have uttered words and published writings expressing and showing hatred for Chinese nations because of their race and place of origin when he allegedly issued the statement in which he called for people to protest against the Chinese influence in Zambia. Lukuku had denied committing the offense, and after calling several witnesses to testify against him, among those police spokesperson Esther Katongo, the court acquitted him in other counts. However, in other counts he was found with a case to answer and placed on his defense. In his defense, Lukuku had denied publishing racial statement against Chinese nations, saying he had no hatred for humanity whatsoever. The late died before he could conclude his defense. Miriam Kemba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
Still in court news, the Mbala Magistrate Court has convicted 11 Ethiopian nationals for the offense of illegal entry into Zambia. The 11 convicts appeared before the Mbala Magistrate Court on the 11th of January 2021. The court ordered that the convicts to pay a fine of 500 kwacha each to be paid within 15 days or with a default spend 12 months imprisonment with hard labor. Department of Immigration Public Relations Officer Namati Nshinka says the 11 all males aged between 20 and 30 years were intercepted 90 kilometers from Mbala along the Mbala-Nakonde Road on the 2nd of January 2021 by alert immigration officers who were on patrol. The now convicts were aboard an overloaded Toyota Special motor vehicle registration number ACR 9177 driven by an unknown Zambian national who escaped.
The Immigration Office has secured the conviction of 11 Ethiopian nationals for the offense of illegal entry into Zambia, contrary to Section 11.2 and 56.1 of the Immigration and Deportation Act No. 18 of 2010, or the laws of Zambia. The 11 all male aged between 20 and 30 years were intercepted 90 kilometers from Mbala along the Mbala-Nakonde Road on 2nd January 2021 by alert immigration officers who were on patrol duties. The now convicts were aboard an overloaded Toyota Special motor vehicle, registration number ACR 9177, when they failed to produce documentation legalizing their entry into Zambia. The Zambian driver of the vehicle, whose identity remains unknown, managed to escape. Appearing before the magistrate court on 11th January 2021, all the 11 were convicted and each sentenced to pay a fine of 500 KWACHA to be paid within 15 days, or in default, 12 months imprisonment with hard labor. They are currently at Mbala Correctional Facility, where they will serve their prison terms if they fail to pay their court fines. We wish to encourage and implore anyone who is aware of any individual, any business or employer who is aiding and abetting illegal immigrants to contact the Department of Immigration.
The Secondary Schools Teachers Union of Zambia, SHUN'S General Secretary Stibekiso Wamuyua has called on government to collectively involve other sector players in the education sector to ensure the safety of the learners when schools open in view of the COVID-19 pandemic. In an interview with Camnet TV, Mr. Wamuyua says last year's precedents cannot be used this year, adding that COVID-19 variant is said to be more deadly than the first phase. Hence, the need to increase surveillance among schools. Recently, General Education Minister Jobix Kalumba insisted that schools are ready to open this coming Monday, 18th January 2021, despite the country recording high cases of COVID-19 on a daily basis. This matter has not only raised concern among the parents, but sector players who feel a workable solution needs to be spelled out before schools open. More in this report.
All schools at grade level are scheduled to open by Monday, 18th January 2021, amid serious concerns of the COVID-19 pandemic. Despite this, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of General Education, Jobix Kalumba, insists that schools are ready to open. One of the questions that begs for answers is how the pupils will manage to maintain social distancing if all the pupils open at once, with most schools having the high teacher-pupil ratio, where 3 pupils sit on one desk. Looking back at last year's situation, when the country was hit with the COVID-19 and only examination classes were allowed to open, desks were a challenge, prompting pupils to devise rotational plans so that pupils can maintain social distancing. With all this on the table, Jobix Kalumba insists the schools are ready to open.
Ministry of Education, we have what I always refer to as an evidence of experience. Okay. What do we mean by this? We are coming from a background where we developed guidelines between us and the Ministry of Health. And the guidelines were sent to all the schools in Zambia, including colleges of education, which spelled out, the approaches that the teachers and the pupils were supposed to follow during COVID. And we are grateful, we are satisfied that from those guidelines that we provided, we recorded success. No child died.
While it is true that no pupils succumbed to the virus last year during the COVID-19 outbreak, the Secondary Schools Teachers Union of Zambia, SHUN'S, says that cannot be used as a yardstick to open schools. Union General Secretary MUSOSH'S says the ministry should instead take a holistic approach in making such serious decisions by involving all relevant stakeholders.
My opinion makes sense. I think there are certain things that need to be done before we reopen. How many people have visited the schools in rural areas? Yes, probably even in Lusaka. How many people have inspected those schools to ensure that all the necessary things are needed? Remember, for your information, the reopening we are talking about, it's not the reopening for selected classes like examination classes. It's for everybody, from early childhood to grade 12. Everybody should come back to school the same day, the same time. Who doesn't know the congestion in our schools? Yes. What have we done in terms of the congestion? Last year we provided learning in sessions. Is that system going to continue? I don't know. But what I feel is that a lot needs to be done. Maybe we haven't done enough to do the inspections, involve qualified personnel, carry out the inspections. The Ministry of General Education, the Ministry of Health, let us look at our classroom space.
Mr. Wamiwa has since advised the ministry to take time, if it hasn't already, to consult other stakeholders on the opening of schools.
My view, the matter of reopening schools in the current situation of COVID-19 or COVID whatever, it is not a matter that must be dealt with by the Ministry of General Education alone, because it goes beyond the Ministry of General Education. It's not a matter of education alone. It's a matter that must be looked at by other stakeholders.
Sharon Kalimbula, Camnet News, Lusaka.
We take our first set of commercials. Do stay with us as we have more interesting stories lined up for you.
And why do you look so pale and busy scratching yourself?
Alamwandi, you know my skin is very sensitive. I've tried all the skin products and nothing seems to work.
Have you tried Oracle Pure Glycerin?
Oracle Pure Glycerin? What's that?
Just give me a minute.
Oracle Pure Glycerin gives your skin a youthful and healthy glow.
Ish, you're glowing. Don't tell me.
Yes!
I already know the secrets. Oracle Pure Glycerin.
Try Oracle Pure Glycerin for that perfect skin.
The Cowbell Choco formula has been stolen. Get it back at all costs.
Tasting Cowbell Choco gives you the get up and go to be at the top of your game. Now with Vitality Plus Iron. Great tasting Cowbell Choco, a creamy chocolatey drink that helps give energy to get up and go.
Dr. Bigron, musaibala komutienda okuni gift na land. Uchitenkubeti uibise mojo basayone. Oh! Mwina mochi, nakuletera njinga. Latest inaluvesi gear na mawaipa.
Difficult ya shida njinga. Liam 19 pendefcon. Transport, we got it.
Nanga phone for communication. Ipu sana chizungu. Yeah, you see what I mean?
It's a camera, difficult.
It's communication. We got it. Inemomi! Powerful system ndimba X-Buzz.
Mufumile kukalale. Na mnaimo muli bakumushi. We got it. Yo Bikron, utole noleta nchemfule mungani. ngecho wachira pose nchita chinshi 1 2 3 both of you kabala ngempanga don't be stupid. We got it.
Thank you so much for staying with us. We continue with the news. Some enumerators who participated in the pilot census of mapping listing exercise have complained of not being paid their 3 months benefits by government. The enumerators who have opted to remain anonymous have complained that their money has not been paid despite having completed the exercise about a month ago. And responding to the matter, Central Statistics Agency Interim Statistician General Musepa Mulenga says government has already released funds for the payment of all the enumerators. Mr. Mulenga has told Camnet TV News in an interview that funds have already reached all the districts and that a few technical challenges had contributed to the delays in payment. He says some enumerators in some parts of the country did not do a concrete job in their area of mappings, which forced the agency to resend them back to redo the work.
Map data collectors do not sign the certificates of completion because these certificates of completion are required by audit. Okay, first the contract is required. Certificates of completion are required by audit for them to go ahead and pay. There have been cases where they give us account numbers, the right names, their names, account numbers for their relatives. Again, those things have to come back here. So there's that process of verification. Minister put it. We worked frantically just before the end of the year, and all the monies have been sent to the provinces. And I think what is remaining now, I think if anyone went to the provinces, the RSs will actually tell you that the money is there. They're just doing the usual logistics at that level now to ensure that the payments are passed through. And one of the things, like I mentioned, have been the schedules. Again, some of the schedules were bounced off the respective commercial banks. They noticed some errors, and some of the errors are in the national registration card numbers. That's the other thing. So we'll also appeal to all those that are doing work for the agency to ensure that they give us the right information, so that it's easy, so that it just remains upon us to actually do what we need to do. But all the monies now have been sent, and again, finally, let me thank UNFP also that they've come in to help us and lighten the burden.
Government has disbursed 8,089,200 KWACHA social cash transfer funds to over 10,000 beneficiaries in PETAUKE district of Eastern Province. PETAUKE District Commissioner Velenasi Banda says the Department of Social Cash Transfer has concluded paying the 4 bi-monthly social cash transfer arrears to its beneficiaries in the area. Ms. Banda says the funding is from the government in partnership with the World Bank under the additional financing of social cash transfer program. Zanis has more in the following report.
In an attempt to reduce poverty and vulnerability in a sustainable and cost-effective way, government in the year 2003 introduced a social cash transfer scheme to assist vulnerable but viable families. Apart from increasing food security among other things, to some beneficiaries at household level, the program has yielded positive results through savings. PETAUKE District Commissioner Velenasi Banda explains the benefits of the program.
Kusebenzela pamozi na ba World Bank vachosa ndalama hapa 8,089,200 kwacha yakuti izi ndalama zirute monse ma constituencies na ma chiefdom mwana tomola boma ilipire for 8 months ili elipire kuvuli konse ni siku ya lero yatititole ndalama tizitolere pangani pamozi ndalama makamaka seta zimai osatwala kuyokumwa muwa ya tieni ndrama izi zipindure azibambo izi ndalama zizokwatilira chipali ya tieni tisunge bwino ndalama izi zitipindulire pakomo izi ndalama tikapasa household tupasa mzimai na mziba
indu nende tonanze ambola ndira nende neka chazi nende chazi Zopeneze nchazi na zose zinga ya kine na nzoli yako. Zona bankulula ni tizo gula nchelwa. Na gula nchelwa nchizo gula malata. Alina eni. Na gula malata mbeni mangisha. Cho number 2. Ne gula mogejo. Number 3. Ne gula mongombe.
The district social welfare officer Moffat Piri said government has concluded paying beneficiaries who were owed money in PETAUKE.
The department, we have concluded the payments of social cash transfers for the recently released 4 bi-monthly payments, and we are happy to note that we did not have any challenges experienced. The payments went very well, and the monies have been issued to the intended beneficiaries on the program.
The social cash transfer scheme initiative is government's way of ensuring improved livelihoods among people in rural areas in order for them to become self-reliant. In PETAUKE district, I'm Hilda Msonda.
Still in the news, Zambia has recorded a staggering 24 deaths in the last 24 hours or related to COVID-19. According to the daily statistics obtained from the Zambia National Public Health Institute, the country has further recorded 1,161 positive cases of COVID-19 out of 11,883 tests conducted in the last 24 hours. On the positive side, the country has recorded 293 recoveries. So far, the country has recorded a cumulative total of 718,848 positive cases, 21,074 total recoveries, and 495 COVID-19 related deaths. And moving on in the news, Munali Nickel Mine in Mazabuka says it has increased the production of nickel minerals by about 20% in the past 6 months. Mine's Chief Executive Officer Anton Maove has explained that from an initial production of 75 metric tons of nickel ore monthly early last year, the mine has increased production, hitting 360 metric tons in recent months. Mr. Maove says the mine has also embraced practical COVID-19 measures to ensure the pandemic does not disrupt the operations of the mine. He says this is despite the majority of the workforce commuting from Kafue and Mazabuka daily. Mr. Maove was speaking when Southern Province Minister Edifai Hamukale visited the mine Tuesday morning, and the provincial minister has implored the corporate world not to tire in assisting government with resources needed to fight the escalating number of coronavirus infections in the country. Dr. Hamukale says government requires a lot of financial and material support, especially that COVID-19 challenge still needs huge budgetary allocations in order to effectively fight the pandemic. And moving on in the news, Lusaka Central Member of Parliament Margaret Mwanakatwe has called for a stop towards the indiscriminate waste disposal among the residents of Bauleni compound. Speaking to journalists when she toured 2 illegal dump sites in Bauleni, Ms. Mwanakatwe says her office has partnered with the Lusaka City Council in making sure that the piles of garbage are cleared soon. She says the illegal dump sites have the potential to spread diseases and generally making the place unsafe for people to live in. Meanwhile, Ms. Mwanakatwe has called on the residents to begin thinking outside the box and start separating the waste for possible recycling. Here's a report.
This is Bauleni compound illegal dump site. At first glance, one would think it is the Chonga dump site. Indiscriminate waste disposal is the order of the day in most communities. In a country where many people live on less than $1 per day, it is only natural that they will not find it important to subscribe to waste collectors, such as the community-based enterprises licensed by the council to collect waste on their behalf. Bauleni compound of Lusaka Central Constituency is one such area with difficulty in disposing waste. The community has now been forced to create their own illegal dump site, which is closer to people's homes, posing many health risks to the residents.
Mena mkwaja wanapala na shoko wanata wanaenda na mnyumba yanga because shara benze opaka benze so apa pali ma business yo serious suche zochita affect bano sota mvera bwino pamene bakambako wamayo tizapempa chabe kuti at least wachiteko musanga because ntemu ya rain season watu wangambe otwala
tusungani kwa wintu hapa tatuli bana yenu tubalani kwa uselesa mpaka.
This has prompted Area Member of Parliament Margaret Mwanakatwe to facilitate the collection of waste to prevent further damage such as disease outbreak and the blockage of drainages.
This is only one illegal dump site. We've got one that's actually bigger than this. And unfortunately this one is very near the clinic. And in fact the rubbish is blocking the drainages here. And this is a dump site that we continuously clear, but it is being used continuously. So it's an effort by myself, the councillor, and the council to be able to find a solution, a lasting solution. And we believe a lasting solution is how we're able to offer people garbage collection. I think that's the ultimate. Unfortunately, this area is a dump site for not just Bauleni. Tendere comes here, Chalala comes here, State Lodge comes here, Kalinga comes here. So it's become a jungle. So we have to find a solution for the stuff that's brought here, how it can be managed better in terms of waste, and maybe find a dump site that is nearer.
The lawmaker has also called on the residents to ensure that once the area is clear, they do not get tempted to create another dump site.
We have started working with Zambia Breweries here to empower the locals to take out some of the rubbish for recycling. And I think that is the way to go, because most of this here can be recycled. And again, we need to ensure that we bring on board a company that can take the rubbish away and be able to make money doing it. But if the locals can be involved in the process, even better, to make sure that they make a bit of money. So in the long term, that is the way to go, certainly. Okay. So yes, my appeal to the locals is to look on this as money, okay, and what they can make out of it.
The council is expected to move in by tomorrow and clear the waste. Sharon Kalimbola, Camnet News, Lusaka.
All People's Congress Party leader Nelson Musoni has urged voters in the forthcoming general elections to only elect credible men and women to avoid a repeat of another sad chapter in the history of Zambia. In a statement, Mr. Musoni notes that the unprecedented levels of corruption in Zambia can only be addressed by the voters themselves by ensuring that corrupt politicians are not retained back into parliament and subsequently into cabinet. He says the country is fatigued by the unending corruption in government, meaning that it is time to be critical when choosing leaders through the ballot. Mr. Musoni says all Zambians must look forward to a new corrupt-free government that will uphold and respect the rule of law.
First, I think we are all fatigued to the core with corruption in government. And I think now the onus is on you Zambians, you yourself Zambians, particularly those of you who have registered to vote in this year's elections. You must ensure that you vote for credible candidates. Scrutinize all those people who are coming to ask for your vote. Ask about their backgrounds. Ask them what they will do for you. And I think it won't do. It won't do for you. It won't do for this country. If we are going to return those very corrupt members of parliament back to government or back to parliament. If you are saying, like I'm saying, that we need a fresh start, we need a break from the past corruption, then it follows that when we go for election on 12th August 2021, let us elect for credible men and women Let us elect for credible men and women. Don't be swayed by the monies that those who are corrupt will splash. But go for quality, go for integrity, go for credible men and women. The corruption, the unprecedented levels of corruption that we have seen in this country, no nation on earth can survive. And I think we need a fresh start.
The bloggers of Zambia has noted that despite the move by Cabinet to approve the national cybersecurity policy being commended, they have cautioned that the strategy must not be used to target and infringe on citizen activities online. Bloggers of Zambia Chief Executive Officer Richard Mulonga says they recognize the need for enhanced internet legislation to make the online spaces safe and secure for all. Mr. Mulonga, however, points out the need for these cyber laws and policies to be democratic, specific, and enhance online rights and freedoms rather than be used to silence citizens' voices online. He says as the country heads towards a heavily contested election, the internet becomes an area of interest, especially in the era of misinformation and the spread of harmful content. Therefore, the proposed policy must not be used as a tool to usher in laws that silence critical voices on social media. Mr. Mlonga notes with concern how the term abuse of social media is being used to inspire the enactment of laws that can be used to target citizens' voices on social media.
Bloggers of Zambia notes and commends the Cabinet's decision to approve the implementation of the national cybersecurity policy, but we want to caution that the strategy that has been approved must not be used to infringe and target citizens' activities on the internet. In as much as we recognize the need for enhanced internet legislation to make the online spaces safe and secure for all, there is need for these laws and policies to be democratic, they must be specific, and they must enhance online rights and freedoms rather than silence citizen activities on the internet. Further, we recognize that we are heading towards a highly contested election where the internet has become a battleground for the contestation of power, for popularity, and so on and so forth. And we are living in an era where misinformation, the spread of harmful content has become famous. We want this tool not to be used to target citizen voices that are particularly debating and sharing opinions and ideas. We want this policy to be used to make the internet safe and secure, that it can contribute to the growth of our democracy here in Zambia. In addition to this, we have noted actually that the term abuse of social media has been weaponized, and it is being used to inspire the enactment of laws that can be used to target citizens on the internet. We would like to make a clarion call for the enactment of appropriate internet laws and policies that must be in tandem with the regional and international policies, such as the Malabo Convention, the African Union Convention on Cybersecurity and Personal Data Protection, and even the General Data Protection Regulations of the EU. In as much as we agree that there is wrongdoing on the internet,
we take our second set of commercials. Do stay with us as we have international and sports news. Don't go away.
We all miss the days we would play outside, go to school, and visit fun places. But now, we all have to take care to prevent the coronavirus. Viruses are really tiny particles that we can't see with just our eyes, so we need to keep ourselves safe by practicing good hygiene, such as washing our hands with soap and clean water regularly. We can also use hand sanitizer to keep our hands clean. It's also important for us to keep our bodies and surroundings clean. We must also avoid handshakes, hugs, and standing close to other people in public places. This is called social distancing. The coronavirus has affected millions of people around the world, so we need to stay safe. In the meantime, we can keep ourselves busy by reading a book, watching TV, and doing some schoolwork. There's so much we can do indoors. Stay safe, stay home, and prevent COVID-19. We're all in this together.
This advert is sponsored by the Zambia Revenue Authority, ZRA. My tax, your tax, our destiny.
Can I have that meal over there? And I really want that crisp, fresh apple taste from the garden. Can I have happy apple?
I think I'll have my big bite 2 meal with happy waziwaka. Give us your
Enjoy an appetizing Big Bite meal with an Appy drink of your choice. A meal is not a meal without an Appy drink. And now introducing Appy in a can.
From time immemorial, we have had different types of lighting options, from those that can burn down our investments in minutes to those that dig holes in our pockets due to constant replacement and huge consumption of our Zesco units. Savenda Electric introduces the new and advanced electric bulb with cutting-edge technology of LED that has low power consumption, gives out bright white light, and lasts up to 25,000 hours. Savenda Electric manufactures all types of LED light, like plastic LED fluorescent tubes, down lights, ceiling lights, outdoor fittings, and solar street lights made to customer specifications. Let's live on the bright side of life by choosing the wide range of Savenda electric lighting solutions that are available in all leading stores and supermarkets countrywide. For orders, call 0962 642 490 or email jnbunda@savenda.com or pchabula@savenda.com.
Thank you so much for staying with us. We continue with the news. In international news, the FBI warns of armed protests in all 50 states by right-wing extremists ahead of Biden's inauguration. The head of the National Guard says he can deploy up to 15,000 troops in Washington to boost the security. Democrats have asked Vice President Mike Pence to invoke the 25th Amendment to remove Donald Trump. They have also introduced an article of impeachment against the president to be acted on if Mr. Pence fails to act. They charge Trump with incitement of insurrection related to the invasion of the U.S. Capitol last Wednesday. He leaves office on the 20th of January when President-elect Joe Biden is inaugurated. Dozens have been charged in connection with last week's violence, which left 5 people dead.
People are being told to stay away from the Capitol for Joe Biden's inauguration as the National Guard prepares for nationwide violence. An FBI internal bulletin says armed protests are being planned in all 50 state capitals and at the U.S. Capitol leading up to Inauguration Day. There have also been threats made against U.S. President-elect Joe Biden, Vice President-elect Kamala Harris, and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. The FBI is also warning of a similar riot attacks if President Trump is ousted from office before January 20th. Meanwhile, Acting Homeland Security Secretary Chad Wolf abruptly resigned yesterday, 9 days before the inauguration.
Thanks for watching. If you like this, be sure to subscribe here.
And you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.
Still in international news, South African president announced last Monday that the country will close 20 land border posts until February 15th to curb the spread of the novel coronavirus. He said the huge congestion at border posts has exposed many people to COVID-19 infections as they wait to be processed. Local television stations have been showing footage of long queues of trucks and people seeking to enter South Africa from the Beitbridge border post, with Zimbabwe waiting for many hours. The president says it has been difficult to ensure that the health requirements for entry into South Africa are met, with many people arriving without proof of COVID-19 tests.
Over the past few weeks, there has been heavy congestion at border posts. Travelers often spend hours in queues stretching several kilometers. The queues had been slowed down by coronavirus screening. Government believes that these border posts have now become areas of high risk of transmission and therefore should be closed, at least until February 15.
One of the challenges that we have as the festive season draws to a close is the huge congestion at many of our land border posts. This has exposed many people to infection as they wait to be processed, and it has been difficult to ensure that the health requirements for entry into South Africa are met, with many people arriving without proof of COVID-19 tests.
The border posts to be closed include Bait Bridge, which connects South Africa and Zimbabwe, Libombo, which provides entry into Mozambique, as well as the Maseru Bridge border post with Lesotho. Only specific circumstances under which travel will be allowed. These include the transport of goods and cargo, as well as the return of South African citizens and permanent residents. Other restrictions include the continuation of a complete ban on the sale of alcohol. Indoor and outdoor activities will also remain prohibited. The president implored South Africans to remain more vigilant as the new variant of the virus ravages parts of the country.
Emerging information suggests that this new variant does not cause more severe illness than the original variants. But it does put more pressure on the health system because the cases increase so rapidly and the hospitals get full much more quickly.
The president said South Africans should avoid what he calls the 3 C's: closed spaces, crowded spaces, and close contact with others. He particularly railed against the attending of funerals.
We are in the grip of a deadly pandemic, and all those activities that would normally take place are just increasing our exposure to risk for ourselves and for the bereaved family and for our own families at home.
Under this level of lockdown, curfew will be from 9 p.m. and end at 5 a.m.
We now get into sports news. And in sports news, Zambia is set to complete its practice matches ahead of the crucial CHAN tournament on Wednesday. The CHIPOLOPOLO is set to play 2 matches with 2 Libyan teams. Zambia's coach Mitchell says Wednesday's 2 practice matches against Libya will be key as the CHIPOLOPOLO wrap up preparations for the 2020 African Nations Championship CHAN in Cameroon. Zambia is in Group D alongside Tanzania, Guinea and Namibia for the CHAN, which starts on the 16th of January 2021.
On Wednesday, we shall play 2 teams of ours against 2 teams of Libya, friendly match at Japoma Stadium in Douala. It will be our last test, and after that test, knowing which players are competitors to keep them up and polish the level of their competitive form ready for the Tanzania on 19th, and who are not, also to work on them so that we have a competitive team that will represent Zambia, Zambian football, and Zambians in the best possible way from the start of the tournament on 19th against Tanzania. Later on Guinea, and going into the match against Namibia on 27th as the last in the group.
That sports item brings us to the end of the news, but before we go, a recap of the headlines. Government shuns former Education Deputy Minister CRISPIN MUSOSHA'S funeral. Temporal embankments on the collapsed LUNDAZI bridge washed away due to heavy rains. Government disburses 8 million KWACHA social cash transfer funds in PETAUKE district. And in international news, South Africa shuts its land borders due to spike in COVID-19. And in sports news, CHIPOLOPOLO to wrap up CHAN preparatory matches with 2 Libyan teams. The Camnet word verse of the day is coming from the book of James 1 verse 5, and it reads, "Now if any of you lacks wisdom, he should ask God, who gives to all generously and without criticizing, and it will be given to him." On behalf of the entire news production crew and myself, Liseli Kanyanga, thank you so much for watching Camnet TV News on Camnet TV, not just another channel.